Welcome to this episode of The Line, where we bring you our favorite artwork and the artists who create them. So in this episode of The Line, I'm super excited that we have a self-portrait by Colleen Barry. It's a really spectacular painting, and so it's going to be a lot of fun to talk about. I first met Colleen when she showed up at Jacob's atelier back in, I guess, 2007 or so. We studied together a little bit. And I was really sort of taken by her draftsmanship skills, and she's only kind of grown in her stature as far as that goes. And I mean, really, that's one of the things about this piece that's so striking. It's just the drawing is so good. It's so solid. I mean, every little bit of it just feels real and natural, and just sort of like the underlying just conceptual basis that's clearly there. It's super awesome to see.
Yeah, I think so. Colleen is the kind of person that everyone recognizes her talent right out the gate, and so everything I've heard, everything I've seen from her early ink drawings up until this, the brushwork is just evident that she's just incredibly talented. So that's when again, looking at paintings, I think it's just a kind of a selfish thing, but you gravitate towards what you like. And so for me, I love seeing like the way she's painted her hair and the parts that she's left untouched. And it's particularly aesthetically gorgeous.
One of the other things that you can also see that's very evident, not only in this, but if you know her, is that she is quite a student of history and understanding and learning from the old masters and what they did, and really sort of breaking everything down, deciphering it. And she's a deep student of the arts and being able to apply that to her sort of her own unique style. But at the same time, you see the evidence all over it, that it's not just about her raw talent, but it's also about her education and her pursuit of finding out those wonderful things that they did back in the day.
She's a really hard worker, as far as that goes.
Off camera, we were discussing a little bit about, I thought that it was a toned canvas in like a cool gray color, but you had mentioned that you thought.
Yeah, I mean, she's been using sort of like a cool raw umber grisaille, pretty frequently, at least as far as from what I can tell. And so it seems like that's probably what's evident here.
Just explain a little bit of what you mean by a grisaille for people who may not know.
Right. So that's where like the full form and light is basically rendered, but in values, right? So it's just white and raw umber, right? So there's no color or chroma that's put in there. So
some of my favorite things that I see in her work often, and also if anyone's taken some of her classes that she teaches, that is very evident in here, is all the curves are not rounded at all, but she uses straight lines to suggest exactly where the break is in that curve, and that's part of what makes some of the contours and features so interesting. So if you looked really close into her nose, or where there's a really heavy turn, you'll see how the lines are broken into these very basic straight lines.
So I think I've said this about all the pieces that we've been featuring so far on The Line, where I'd seen them before online, like social media or Instagram or something like that, and kicking around. I mean, obviously I really admired them right from the get-go, but when I saw this one in person, it was at the self-portrait show at 11th Street Arts, and I was just really struck by the paint quality, and there's that tangibleness to the paint quality that just doesn't come through in a flat image. But even more than that, there's just like this glow, so she's clearly underpainting with that grisaille or whatever, some of the initial layers and like a lighter value, like particularly on the forehead or the nose. And then she's taking a glaze of some kind over the top of that. And so you get this kind of like luminous quality to it that otherwise you wouldn't find. And it's not, there's a variety. There's a variety to that throughout the painting. And I think that's generally a quality that you see through a lot of great paintings, that there's different techniques all in one, right? So you've got opaque passages, you've got transparent passages, you've got you know, like things at the bottom where it's like a little bit more unfinished. So you just have this variety of the paint factor, which kind of enlivens the whole thing.
Something also unique about this piece is that as self-portraits go, it's not very often that you'll see a profile piece. And that takes a lot of planning and skill. And also just, I find that it's a really interesting angle and a new approach to trying to do a self-portrait. And so just the subject matter and how it's approached is really, really nice compositionally.
The color scheme, I like the orange in her hair and the green background, just the complement. And then there's some reds in her lips, you know, it's just, it's a really, the balance of the underpainting, she's playing that up, you know, the top right, the chroma, and the bottom left.
That's another thing that's interesting about this piece is that the chroma overall is pretty low, but she does such a good job of controlling the chroma that she puts into the piece, you know, because a lot of the old masters didn't have like incredibly high like cadmium chroma paints, but they knew how to control their pieces, and I think that shows part of her education too, of really being able to control the chroma throughout the painting and still give this luminous quality and this fleshy quality to the work.
I mean, I do think that some of the low chroma of the painting is dictated a bit by her palette, which is, I mean, it's not a bad thing, it's great. But I happen to know that, you know, probably the most chromatic yellow she's got on there is an ochre, yellow ochre. It's a great practice, but I think she's able to really sort of extend the range of that pigment again through the use of glazing.
Yeah, over her grisaille, yeah.
Yeah, it's a gorgeous, gorgeous little painting.
It's just one of those things where, you know, you have this incredible technique and education, and all of that comes to bear, but she still brings something more to it, you know, that emotive quality. There's a poetry of it. There's something in the expression and this ineffable thing that, you know, you can't sort of say, you know, just ticks all the boxes of technique, I guess, you know.
One thing that we should comment on, it's part of the show that I like to get into, is this idea of a market value and what a painting is worth. And as artists, we all love it, but the idea of what is happening today in contemporary art and how the collectors are responding to these works. So this particular piece recently sold, and it sold for $7,500, which is an incredibly good price for a young artist today. It just shows kind of the trends.
Yeah, I was when I saw it at the self-portrait show, I was trying to figure out how I was going to be able to pay for this thing, because I actually really wanted to, and then it got snatched out from under me. But good for them. They've got an awesome piece.
Yeah.
Well, it was a huge honor to have such a high-quality piece of art in our studio and to be able to talk about it and get to see it. So thank you to Colleen for letting us have it. And if you like what we've been doing here on The Line, please subscribe to our page and email us, let us know what you're thinking, and we'll see you on the next one.